Hello and welcome to the second week of CAS 206. In this video, you're going to see how it looks to preview text files in Notepad, WordPad, and brackets. We'll also preview web files in Internet Explorer and Google Chrome, and we're going to observe how HTML elements can be used to format the structure of a web page. This folder that you see on my desktop has all the exercise files that you'll need for the second week, which those are actually exercise 5 files. You can download these all at once by clicking on the link in our Moodle course page. When you unzip the files, you probably will see something called .ds_store in every one of them, and that's just a Mac artifact that was left over from saving the original file. You can delete all of these if you want to, and it won't hurt anything. So if it bothers you, just click delete and get rid of it. So now we have our files ready to go. You can view the text that the author has given you to work with by right-clicking it and then selecting a program to open it with. Let's try Notepad first. Well, clearly there is no formatting here, and that's a great thing to have no formatting if you're trying to create a web page. But if you're just trying to read text, this can be a little difficult, especially when it gets into a lot of text. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's right-click and choose Open with WordPad. This text is much easier to read, but clearly there is some formatting embedded in the document. Let's close that also. The best practice is to open it with brackets, because it will be easy to read, but it will not have the extra formatting that you'll have to worry about later. Now let's check out some of the finished products that the author has provided. First, right-click on one of the finished web pages and choose Open with Google Chrome. While we're here, let's right-click and choose View Page Source, which lets us actually go back into the scripting that was used to create this page. This can be very useful as we're learning because we can see how different web pages have been created. Now let's take a look at the Columbia Gorge Community College website. I'm going to move my mouse over and right-click. Notice I get Save Link As here, so I'm in a place where it's giving me an option to save a link, and that's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to come over a little farther to the left, right-click, click again, and now you can see I get View Page Source. And now I can see all the work that they put in on creating this website. This is a really valuable tool, so when you see a website that you really like, be sure that you take the time to actually look how they built it. Before we go on, you may be wondering why we're using Google Chrome instead of Internet Explorer. And I'll explain why briefly here before we go on. Let me open this page in Google Chrome. And you can see what it looks like. I'm going to open it in Internet Explorer. And as you can see, there's very little difference. This is a very simple web page, and everything that we've used is supported in not only Google Chrome, but also in Internet Explorer. It's just that as we begin to do more advanced things, there are some things that won't be supported by Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer is notoriously bad at keeping up with the latest in changes in web design. So that's why we're learning with Google Chrome, but it's always a good idea to test your web pages in a variety of browsers, including Firefox, which is a great browser. So using Google Chrome as our default browser is a choice that I'm making for our class so that you have the best chance that everything you do will work. Then later, we'll look at some ways to make sure that Internet Explorer also supports the things that you want to do with your website. Let's open exercise 5-3_blog.txt in brackets by right-clicking and choosing Open with brackets. This is the one that you're going to begin working on for the third exercise. When you go up to Live Preview, though, you get an error message. The reason is you can't open a live preview of a text file. You have to save it as an index.html or other name.html file. I'll click OK, and I'm going to use the File, Save As menu there, and change this to HTML. Save it, and now you can get a live preview opening up in Google Chrome for you. You can see that there's a little bit of formatting. There are some paragraph breaks, which you can see on the left here if I highlight them. There's a little bit of italicizing and bold text. But most of the formatting you're going to need to do, and we're going to go through that step by step. Let me close this and also minimize brackets and right-click and choose the final version of this exercise. I'll use open with brackets again. Now we can see all of the formatting that they have put in, and we're going to go through this formatting. You will do the exercise, or you should do the exercise on your own, because you'll need to know how to do these things in order to complete this week's assignment. But I'd like to go through every one of these step by step for you so you understand exactly what these tags do. As we go through this document, I'll have the text file open on the left and the finished product open in the live preview on the right. So let's take a look at it. The very beginning should look very familiar. You've got a doc type HTML and then the HTML opening tag. Then we have the opening head tag, which encloses the title, Black Goose Bistro Blog, and you can see that on the tab over here in Google Chrome. And then we come to the body tag and now a header. The header is different from the head, which is up above here. Let's go down and look at the header and see what they've put in there. First of all, they use the H1 tag, and you can see over here this Black Goose Blog is in a very large, bold font, which is the default formatting that Google Chrome is giving to the H1 tag. Then she uses the nav opening and closing tags, which is a new HTML5 tagging system that labels the navigational menu. Inside there, she has put a list. This is an unordered list with 4 list items. And you can see how it's displayed over here. Unordered lists are displayed with a bullet, which Google Chrome has a small round bullet by default. Just for fun, let's see what would happen if you change this to an ordered list. I'll put O there and O there, and I'm going to save the document. And now we see over here on the right, it's an ordered list numbered 1 through 4. We can put that back to unordered list. And I'll hit Control S this time, and notice that Live Preview automatically updates it to have bullets. The next section is an article, and notice when I put my cursor in the opening article tag and then scroll down a little bit, you can see that brackets has already highlighted the closing article tag for us. The article has its own header, and inside the header is an H2 tag, opening and closing, a paragraph tag, and a time tag. Let's go back up and look at the header here for just a moment. Notice that header 2 encloses the subtitle Summer Menu Items, and it's a little bit smaller than the Black Goose Blog title. That's because the header 2 tag by default is displayed a little bit smaller than the H1 tag. The H3 tag would be a little smaller, and so on. Appetizers right here is enclosed with the H3 tag, and you can see that that is a little bit smaller even than the H2 tag up here, Summer Menu Items. The paragraph tag gives you a little bit of space around your text before and after. So you can see over here where it says posted by BGB June 15th has a little bit of space up above it and a little bit of space down below it. There's another option for shifting your text down a line that does not create that space. We'll look at that on down below in the page. Then we have this timestamp again, and this time element is something that the author has included to demonstrate how to use text that computers can read and use. You may not use it very much, but there's a good explanation of that in your text. The next part of this page is the appetizers section. Notice that the author has assigned an ID to this section, naming it Appetizers. On down a bit, she has also included a class called New Item. IDs and classes are ways of creating a handle for sections that you can attach styles to later. It's like nailing a row of hooks on your wall. The hooks can hold all kinds of different coats or whatever you want to hang there. Later on, you could apply a style that would make everything with the same ID or class have the same appearance. For now, it is just important to know what they do, and also remember that an ID can only apply to one item. A class can be applied to more than one item, like the Southwestern Napoleons up here and the jerk rotisserie chicken down below. The author also introduces us to the span tag, which is a way to set apart some generic text that we might want to apply a style to, such as the class called Price, which she creates here. The author also uses a few other tags here that we're not going to really go into that much today, such as this data list with a data type, or let's just scroll down a little bit, and here's a defining instance, and then she's also got a cite tag, which is used for quotations. All of these are different ways that we can create hooks to apply styles to later. The last thing that we're going to look at is the footer that the author has created. Footer is another HTML5 tag. And right in the fourth line here, you can see that there's a paragraph tag, and then there's a break tag. There's actually one right above it too, paragraph and break. The break tag is one of the things that I was telling you about earlier that I want to point out right now and show you guys a little bit about how this works. Over here on the right, if I scroll down in Google Chrome, you can see that there is a location and hours. Location has a space above it, but Baker's Corner does not. If you go over on the left, you can see that the location is preceded by the paragraph tag, while Baker's Corner is preceded by the break tag, and there's only an opening break tag. You do not need to include a closing break tag, so that's kind of an exception to our rule of opening and closing tags. But look at how useful this is. Sometimes you just really don't want that space between your text. You don't want a line of space, for example, after location and before Baker's Corner. So the break tag is extremely useful for those instances. So that's it for this week. Be sure to post any questions that you might have about this week's lesson and assignment in the question and answer forum. See you next time.